It's Jimmy Smith, my UFC 247 post-fight breakdown. As you guys know, I always own my picks, so I'm going to go over them, see what I got right and what I got wrong. I had to catch up on it this morning because I was in Canada doing a thing called Fight League Atlantic, doing play-by-play for them. It was a funny story. Like 8 months ago, this guy messaged me and went, "Hey, I'm having my inaugural event in Canada in early February. Could you do it?" And I went, "Sure." Because 9 times out of 10, when someone says we're having our inaugural event anywhere, anytime, any place, it never happens. So I was kind of like, yeah, sure. And I didn't really think much about it. And then it actually happened. He kept saying, it was on schedule and it actually ended up happening. And he was willing to fly me out and all this stuff. So I ended up doing play-by-play for them. It was fun. Mostly an amateur show, but trying to get more play-by-play experience. So that was a good thing. Canadian fans are great. So anyway, it involved some really rough travel. I got stuck in Montreal for an extra day, so I didn't get back until late last night, and so I wasn't able to watch the fights because I was calling a fight of my own, and I wasn't staying up that late. So I caught up on it today. So let's get started at the bottom of the card. Derrick Lewis, Ilir Latifi. I picked Derrick Lewis to win. He won. Ilir Latifi was able to clinch enough to slow Derrick Lewis down a little bit. Got the occasional takedown. I think he won round 2. If I remember correctly. What we saw from Derrick Lewis is he's gotten a lot more patient. I think that's very important. He's always a hard hitter. He's always aggressive in these things. But Ilir Latifi put him in a lot of frustrating situations with the over-under, pushing him against the fence, trying to wear him down. And I think the old Derrick Lewis would have gotten impatient about that. Would have thrown punches with a lot of power from bad angles and wouldn't have done anything. He would have gotten frustrated, cost himself a lot of energy, really gone crazy as soon as he broke, trying to kind of make up time. And he didn't do any of those things. He was very composed, and it wasn't a storm, but he weathered the bad weather of getting clinched and pushing against the fence. He dealt with it well. I thought he earned the unanimous decision, and he got it. I thought he would hurt him early, and Ilir Latifi proved that he's strong at heavyweight, that he can physically get stuff done, but I think he's having the same problems at heavyweight that he had at 205. He just doesn't have finishing ability at either weight class. His wrestling is good. It's not world class. It's not going to take him past any elite heavyweights. So I just don't see where Ilir Latifi goes at this point. Derrick Lewis, of course, still marketable, still a lot of fun, still a knockout puncher. Ton of great fights for him at heavyweight still left to go. Mirsad Bektic versus Dan Ige. I thought Bektic would be able to keep distance, keep Dan Ige at range, where Dan Ige wouldn't be able to use his submission game and kind of outbox him. And what surprised me was the striking of Dan Ige. He showed great boxing, really effective, tight, crisp punches, great left hook, good inside combinations, and Mirsad Bektic was really kind of forced back by the hand speed of Dan Ige, by the effective boxing. Then Mirsad Bektic kind of flipped the script, and in round 2 started taking him down, got mount, threatened with the arm triangle, wasn't able to get it, and it was kind of a reversal of what we expected, or what I expected of this fight, which is the grappling of Dan Ige versus more of the striking of Mirsad Bektic. Dan Ige looked like the more effective boxer, and that forced Mirsad Bektic to go to his ground game. And he had some success, especially in round 2, couldn't keep it up in round 3. Ate some good punches, and I thought Dan Ige deserved the split decision. He got a split. I thought he won 2 out of 3 rounds. So, but it was the way in which he did it, which relied more on his boxing than his submission game. Although he did get on top a bit, I really thought it was his boxing that carried the day. So great win for him. Let's see what he does at the top of the division or against elite contender guys. Justin Tafa versus Juan Adams. Juan Adams didn't use his range at all. Came out southpaw, and one thing is, if you're longer or taller, that's great. You have to use those long range tools, and he didn't. A lot of pawing with that lead hand. Didn't snap off any crisp punches, any crisp jabs, didn't use the lead leg effectively. And against a shorter, more powerful striker, if you don't give him a reason to back off, eventually he's going to get inside and make you pay. And that's exactly what happened. 2 minutes in the first round, big shots, and that was the end of it. But Juan Adams, bigger, rangier, and didn't use those gifts at all. Obviously very emotional. He reacted after the loss very emotionally. If you saw on social media, he was very upset about it, but he didn't come in with a good strategy. He didn't use the gifts. The great thing about fighting is there's no one build. All right, if you aren't really tall, you're not going to be an elite basketball player. Sorry. You're not going to be 5'9". Yeah, if I remember Spud Webb too, the vast majority of great basketball players are tall. The vast majority of great football players are big. And if you don't have that, It's going to be tough. There's no great build for fighting, but you have to use the advantages you have. Mike Tyson was a short, comparatively, powerful puncher, and he used it effectively with his head movement and his ability to close range. That's what he did. Some boxers are long and use the jab effectively, like Lennox Lewis did. You have to use the advantages you have. And it was just weird from the beginning that Juan Adams wasn't able to use his range effectively. A lot of times it's hard to use the jab against an opposite stance. If you're orthodox and they're southpaw or vice versa, your lead hands run into one another a lot. But as the taller guy, your lead hand should be able to get over the lead hand of your opponent, and you can use an effective jab. Or even the power shot. Straight down the pipe, you can use range effectively, and I didn't think Juan Adams did that at all. At all. So, knockout win for Justin Tafa. Disappointing loss for Juan Adams. Don't know where he goes from here. Might be finished in the UFC, but disappointing loss for him. So, I picked the first one correctly. I missed on the middle two, and then I got the championship ones right. Let's go over that. Valentina Shevchenko over Katlyn Chookagian. I've said it a million times. She's a level or two better than everyone else at 125. Same thing for Amanda Nunes at 135. She's a level better than everybody else. 115 right now, to me, is the only competitive division in women's MMA. Someone's going to have to catch up to Shevchenko or Nunes. I don't see that happening anytime soon. And we saw that in this fight. Valentina Shevchenko was hands down the better fighter. End of story. Took her a while in the first round to find her range. She was very, very patient. They're both kind of feeling one another out. But as soon as she found her range, it was over. Excellent kicks leading the second round. It's that axe kick over the top. Spinning stuff was landing. She was killing her. And then Chookagian tried to use some rubber guard in round 3. Didn't work out. Got her guard passed. Ended up crucifixed. And that was it. Boom, boom, boom. No one's going to beat Shevchenko at 125 right now. I mean, sure, somebody might land a miracle shot. It can always happen. I don't see any opponent right now on her skill level. And the same, as I said, can be said at 135 and 145 because Nunes is champ in both. And she's heads and tails above everybody else. So the UFC just has a problem when it comes to women's MMA at 25 and 35. They just don't have compelling divisions. Nothing at 45. It's not there. Bellator has that same problem at 145 with Cyborg. Yeah, they got Cyborg. Great. She blows away Julia Budd. Now what are you going to do? Anybody who's 145 pounds, get in there and see what you can do. That's the issue. And so often in women's MMA, it's a one-woman show, and 125 is a one-woman show. Valentina Shevchenko showed that again. If there was one fight on this card where I'd bet my house, it would have been Shevchenko over Chookagian. Simple. And it was. I didn't see a competitive moment in that fight. Chookagian never gave up. She never, wasn't easily hurt by stuff that was like, oh my God, I can't believe that shot hurt her. It wasn't anything like that. She didn't physically collapse. She was outgunned. Outgunned from the beginning. And that was it. So, she gave it all she had, but she was up against a superior opponent. And I just don't see the talent pool at 125 and 35 being big enough right now to challenge the champions. Jon Jones, Dominic Reyes. Now, remember, I caught up on it this morning. I knew what people thought of the fight, obviously, when it happened. I'm on social media and stuff. So I was looking at this fight with a really critical eye. I was really like a judge. Man, how would I judge this? There's so much criticism in the judging. I really believed Dominic Reyes won the first 3 rounds. I really did. And I was looking for a reason to give it Jon Jones. To give it to Jon Jones. I was looking for something. Come on, there's got to be. Judges can't be that blind. I really thought he won all 3 rounds. The first 3 rounds fairly clearly. Jon Jones in round 3, which is to everybody that I'm reading online, that's kind of the killer round because almost everybody gives Dominic Reyes the first 2 rounds. Almost everyone gives Jon Jones the last 2 rounds. How'd you see that round 3? Jon Jones was in the center, yes. He was the one stalking forward, yes. But a lot of Dominic Reyes' success early in this fight was his constant movement. He was making Jon Jones come after him and find him. And he couldn't do it in the first 3 rounds. He just couldn't. As long as those legs were moving, he was angling properly. Jon Jones is used to big brothering guys, using the lead hand, using the lead foot to keep people in one spot, to keep them where he can hit them. And because Reyes was moving so much, that oblique kick wasn't really working. The jab, that pawing thing wasn't really working. And he had trouble, once again, trying to find Dominic Reyes. So the downside of that is Jon Jones was able to claim the center of the octagon and kind of be the physical aggressor. He wasn't throwing better punches. I want to make that very, very clear. He wasn't throwing more punches, and he wasn't throwing better punches. But he was physically controlling the center, which a lot of people are talking about octagon control. Octagon control is only your criteria if everything else is equal. And it wasn't equal at all to me. In the first 3 rounds, Dominick Reyes threw more and landed more. A great way to put it, and it was John McCarthy who told this to me. He goes, who would you rather be at the end of the round? That's a good way to judge it. Who would you rather be at the end of the round? First 3 rounds, I would rather be Dominick Reyes. I thought he threw better. I thought he landed better. And so in round 3, which is kind of the round people are back and forth about, Jon Jones claimed the center and started finding better success with the oblique kick and like kind of those short range finding kicks. But that was about it. I didn't think he had a lot of success with his power punches. I didn't think he was landing combinations effectively. I certainly don't think he was hurting Dominick Reyes. And I thought Dominick Reyes was still landing effectively in round 3. So I watched that 3rd round very, very closely, looking for any reason to give it to Jon Jones. And I couldn't find one. I really believe Dominick Reyes won the first 3 rounds of that fight and should be champion. Now, I picked Jon Jones to win. I thought he would really turn it up with the fights he has in front of him. That you want to send a message to either Stipe or Israel Adesanya, and he'd really have a great performance. He looked solid, but not spectacular. He looked, good. Obviously, he didn't get knocked out or anything like that. But that, oh my God, how can anyone beat this guy, Jon Jones, didn't seem to be there. And we haven't seen him for a while. Now, a lot of people, when I broke this one down, someone said, oh man, he really chopped down Thiago Santos. I love it when people assume or imply that I don't pay attention to fights, like I haven't been doing this 20 years, where, you got to really look at the Thiago Santos fight. I really looked at it, dude. I really looked at it. And the fact of the matter is, I thought in a close fight where he'd really want the finish, he could not turn it on and get rid of a one-legged fighter. That's a bad sign. I think we saw more of that in this fight, where, once again, he's an excellent fighter, but that awe-inspiring Jon Jones was not there against Dominick Reyes. It was pretty much a straight-on kickboxing match. We didn't see a whole lot of funky stuff. Obviously, went for a few takedowns, but we didn't see that next level explosiveness and creativity and range that we've seen for years and years and years. When I broke this down, I said if you're betting against Jon Jones, you're betting on Father Time, that the years have just caught up with him. The camps have just caught up with him. I think we're seeing that. And the division's getting better. I mean, fighters getting better all the time. I think it's a combination of Dominick Reyes being that new generation of fighter, although Jon Jones has already faced a couple of them, and Jon Jones is just wearing down after 12 years in the sport. It's just a long time. Yeah, he's a young man, but we're talking fight years. It's not the same. It ain't the years, honey. It's the mileage. And it could be Jon Jones is just wearing down. Also, fighters starting to figure him out. There's a lot of tape on Jon Jones. He's been around a long time. Good coaches are starting to go, hey, there are ways to get around this guy. And Dominick Reyes' way around him was angle, 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 angle. Don't stand in front of him. Let him big brother you. And it was effective. Not only is Dominick Reyes tall and strong and rangy himself, but add in good movement, and Jon Jones really couldn't find the target early on. He had to wait for him to slow down a bit. And by then, in my opinion, he had already lost the first 3 rounds. So as far as picks went, I did well. I went 3-2, but I really thought Jon Jones lost that fight when I watched it. So what do we do about scoring? Because everybody's complaining about scoring. My point of view is the judges just aren't well educated and don't have enough background in the sport. I don't think any change to the judging system will do anything. I think Aaron Bronstetter tweeted about this half-point scoring system they're talking about, and 9.5 for the. You're going to make it more complicated for people who can't figure out a comparatively simple system. To me, that's like saying, this guy can't drive an automatic for shit. Let's give him a stick. No, if you can't drive an automatic, we're not going to make it more complicated and have a half-point system and make it more subtle. They can't handle the boxing scoring system, which is much maligned today, is pretty simple. 10 for the winner, 9 for the loser, and it goes down from there. You shouldn't need a different system, right? So the idea of some half-point system, they could use flags. If you're an incompetent judge, you're an incompetent judge. We are the only major sport, MMA and boxing, that has a subjective scoring system, right? The only major sports are combat sports that have subjective scoring. So there's always going to be human fallibility. There's always going to be that factor in anytime a fight goes the distance. But the solutions of let's make it more complicated with a half-point scoring system, I don't see that at all because they can't even get a boxing scoring system correct. Then another one is the old pride system, which judged the fight as a whole. So it didn't go round by round. People forget a couple things. Number one, Pride had plenty of bad decisions, if you remember the Pride days. Number two, and I would love to hear someone in the comments section argue this point, if you can't score a round effectively, how are you going to score a fight effectively? Scoring a round, a piece of a fight, is much easier than scoring an entire 15 or 25-minute fight. Anybody could say it. I mean, that's just stupid. Breaking it down into rounds is easier to score. So the idea that these guys who are screwing up a 10-9 system, which is comparatively simple, and can't score rounds, are going to then judge an entire fight, I don't see the logic there. Also, breaking it into rounds gives us, as fans, an idea of how good you are as a judge. There's more accountability because fights can go either way. There are plenty of people who think Jon Jones won the fight. Rounds, a lot of times, are one-sided. And a lot of people right now are bitching one judge gave it 4-1 for Jon Jones. That's insane. Now, if we didn't have a round scoring system and he just said Jon Jones won, we wouldn't know that. We wouldn't know how bad that guy is. James Krause, I haven't seen the undercard yet, but James Krause apparently lost the third round and some judge gave him the third round. And he clearly won the first round and some judge gave the other guy the first round. Bear in mind, I haven't seen it. I'm just commenting on what people are saying. If we didn't have a round system, we wouldn't know how bad that guy is. There'd be less accountability. Because rounds, a lot of time, like, all right, one guy got dominated. If you score it the other way, you suck. All right, you're a terrible judge. If you just say, oh, Jon Jones won. Well, without some idea of how you added that up and why you think that, there's going to be even less accountability. I think it's about the judges not being educated enough and not having a background in the sport. I don't spend, or didn't when I was commentating. Oh, and somebody asked me on one of my videos I posted why I refer to commentating in the past tense. I don't do it for a living anymore. I don't consider myself a commentator anymore. I do it, but it's not my job. So when I say I'm not a commentator anymore, I don't do it for a living anymore. When I was commentating, I don't spend a lot of time around the judges necessarily. I'm not in fighter ops. I don't take care of the refereeing, or I'm not with those guys. A lot of them in the times I have spent with them are old school boxing guys. Some commissions have more MMA guys on there. A lot of them are like literally grandfathered in. They're super old and just haven't spent a lot of time in MMA as a judge, as a competitor, as an instructor, nothing. They're old boxing guys who transition to MMA. And obviously different commissions are at very different levels, and this is a very blanket statement. That's been a lot of the issue for me, personally, is these guys just don't have any background for it. They don't know what they're looking at. And because commissions are a lot of times a good old boy system, where you're in for a long time and that's the way it goes. And they haven't done this before. The sport's new, but they've been in for a long time. And until that changes, no system is going to change it. Until you get more fighters and ex-fighters and these kind of things going into judging, you're going to get the same BS because a half-point system all at once, you're changing the paint and you're leaving a rotting engine in there. It doesn't change the overall fact that if you don't know what you're looking at, you're not going to know how to judge a whole fight. You're not going to judge it by 0.5, whatever the hell it is. None of that's going to work. None of that's going to work. So that's my thought on it. We need just a more educated, a better education system for judges. And the UFC, and I read this criticism, and Dana White talked about it, I think. The UFC took a big risk going to Texas with 2 title fights. Or I mean, a lot of people thought Dominic Reyes beat Jon Jones. Imagine if there are 2 bad decisions, 2 titles can change hands in the same state over bad decisions. That's a big risk. And to take it outside of, the biggies, of course, Nevada, California, New Jersey, New York, that's a big risk. Big risk. And so my personal thought on judging is no systemic change is going to do it. It's got to be about the education. and it's got to be about the people doing it. If you can't get more ex-fighters doing it and more people that are coaches and judges and that kind of thing, you're going to have the same problem over and over again. Anyway, those are my thoughts, and you'll hear from me once again before the next big fight. Later.